Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the On-Screen podcast, the official podcast of thetotalscreen.com. I am Tyson Gifford.
I'm William Roerig.
And today we have quite a few news stories, a few things to look for in the next couple of weeks, some stuff we've been watching, and full spoiler discussions on the new season of What We Do in the Shadows, the first 2 episodes, as well as the most recent episode of Marvel's What If. Let's kick things off with On Beat. On Beat is our news segment where we talk about news stories from the past week. So first up, rumors have been circulating about Game Boy and Game Boy Color games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service.
Yes. I mean, that's cool. We've been waiting a while for Nintendo to add new platforms to Switch Online service. I was really hoping for GBA since, that's my favorite Game Boy. But Game Boy...
The way Nintendo's been, they got to do Game Boy before they do Game Boy Advance, right?
Yeah,
Just kind of like the way they've been doing this,
But, there's still plenty of bangers on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. They got the Zelda games, both the Link's Awakening and the Oracle series, which is good. You got the Mario Land series. You got Donkey Kong 94, which is an excellent, excellent game.
Yes, there's some Wario games, too.
Yeah, there's the Wario Land, which is actually Super Mario Land 3. But that was where, Game Boy was where Wario Land started. I could sit here and list off.
There's some puzzle games. I wonder if they'll get like Tetris and...
Yeah, they might. I don't know.
Is Tetris already on for the NES Online?
No.
Okay,
I don't
so that might be a good one because that was the most famous version of Tetris was the Game Boy one.
Yes,
that might be a good one.
That game literally sold Game Boys. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then Dr. Mario, they already have the NES version of that. So
yeah, they got that, and Dr. Mario is better on the NES too because that relied on the colors. I mean, they have the Game Boy version has everything's different shading and stuff, but it's a game that really works better on the NES.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is Game Boy Color as well with this.
There's the original. There's the original Kirby on the Game Boy.
Yeah, Masahiro Sakurai's that's his first game, isn't it?
I don't think it's his first game, but I think it's the first major game he directed. Yeah, he created the character and everything, so that's entirely his creation.
Yeah, honestly, there's not many Game Boy and Game Boy Color games that I'm still excited about. I mean, I think back and I think of the games I really liked. It was stuff like Tetris and Dr. Mario, but there's better versions of those,
Right.
It's not like a sequel where the last one stands even with the sequel.
I say
it's like a new version, so it kind of replaces.
If you love old school 2D Zelda, you can't skip the Oracle games. I'm sorry.
That's true. The Oracle games are interesting. Those are good. Like you, I'd be much more excited for GBA, but I kind of suspect that if they were going to start handling the portable systems, that they were going to do GB and GBC first.
Yeah, and it seems like that makes sense that they're doing that.
Imagine if they put GBA, though, and one of the first games for it was Mother 3.
Oh, Jesus.
The internet would explode.
They still haven't put, Earthbound on the service, and that was released in English.
Didn't they put one of them? Did they put Earthbound 0, the NES one?
That's on the Wii U.
Okay.
And Earthbound is also on the Wii U. It's funny, Earthbound is on the Wii U, it's on the SNES Classic Mini. It's not on the Switch Online service.
So weird.
Yeah.
And Nintendo needs to do something with that service. It's just kind of become a disappointment now. Every time they announce the new games for it, it's
Well, it's weird because now every time they announce new games, it's some weird esoteric stuff that literally 90% of people interested in it tweeting never even freaking heard of.
Yeah.
It's the last batch where they have Kaboom, Nobody fucking knows what that is, So people are like, and so you get the comments like, where the hell's Earthbound? What's this?
Yeah. Here's my proposal for Nintendo. Charge $10 a month for a separate service besides this that includes all of this, but basically just has everything. And, you'll get it. People will pay $10 a month if you just fucking put up everything you have the rights to.
Yeah.
And I obviously, I don't mean like Switch games too. Like that would be too much.
I mean, obviously there's work involved in getting games, running on the Switch, running on their emulator and stuff. It's not just a straight, like they could just dump the game on there. They got to make sure it works with the emulator, test it, make sure all the features are working properly. But still, it's like, come on. Yeah, like I just looked up. Yeah, last month, these were the games. It was a Jelly Boy, a Bamboozle, which was actually released as Kaboom here back in the day. So that's interesting. And then Claymates. Nobody except for me, because I'm a giant fucking SNES nerd, knows what these games are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just bad. Come on, they need to do better. If you charge more, then you can work out better deals with third parties to get their games on there, which means you could put like the Final Fantasy games on there, Ogre Battle, stuff like that people actually want.
Yeah,
and $10 a month, and you're going to make a killing on that.
Yeah,
and people would pay for it. Just do a proper service. This service is not good. It's just, it launched with promise and fizzled out.
Exactly.
So just do it right. Come on, Nintendo. Our next story up, Reservation Dogs. This is a series about kids on a reservation in Oklahoma. It's produced by Taika Waititi, and it sports a all-native cast and crew, basically, or like main cast and crew. Got renewed for a season 2. So I've been watching it, enjoy it. So I'm happy for Reservation.
Yeah, that's good news.
And diversity is good. It's nice to see some Native Americans on screen,
Yeah, definitely.
HBO Max has ordered a pilot for Dead Boy Detectives. This is an adaptation of the DC Comics series written by Neil Gaiman.
I mean, anything written by Neil Gaiman is going to be interesting. I don't know anything about this series. This is like literally my first time hearing of this. I didn't know about Dead Boy Detectives before, so
apparently the main characters from the series are going to be showing up in the new season of Doom Patrol that's not too far out. But the anticipation is that this is a completely unrelated project, so it's probably going to have like different actors and stuff playing those same characters, because DC doesn't know what to do with their shit. They don't know how to link or not link their stuff together. It's just a big treasure trove of whatever.
Yeah.
Next story up, Alan Wake is being remastered for PC, Xbox Series X and S, as well as the PS5.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising. It's a pretty good game, so it's nice to see it get remastered. What's surprising is it's on the PlayStation systems for the first time. Alan Wake used to be an Xbox exclusive. Microsoft published it originally for the 360, and I believe they published it on the PC as well. Microsoft did.
Microsoft's been making some weird moves away from exclusivity. It's really weird because they've been buying up studios and then getting rid of exclusivity at the same time on a lot of their stuff, which is really strange. I understand the perspective of them moving more towards services and being less about being console specific and stuff. That all makes sense to me, but they're making moves that seem like the opposite of that.
Well, in this instance, it's not Microsoft. Remedy is actually the developer is actually an independent studio.
Do they own the rights though, or
apparently they do? Which I didn't know about, but yeah.
Maybe they just asked Microsoft. That's what Platinum did with Wonderful 101.
Yeah, maybe they did, yeah.
So, Alan Wake. Next news story, Bob Odenkirk is returning to Better Call Saul. He's filming it again after he had a heart attack. Recently, and I think the last week or two, they had started filming again without him because they were just like, well, we got to film, so we're just going to film the stuff that he's not in. And then get back when he came back. Well, they've now started filming again.
Glad to hear Bob's doing well and that he's filming again.
That was a bit of a scare, wasn't it?
It was a bit of a scare, yeah. We were about to lose a comedy gem
Yeah, and someone who just seems like a really like good person.
Really, yeah, like a really, really down to earth good person, you know, like I really enjoy Bob Odenkirk, his work. And so, yeah, glad to see that he's still well and that he's still going to be able to provide us with more entertainment going forward.
Yes, hear, hear. Our next news story, Hulu is raising the prices for their main services on October 8th. So this does not include Hulu Plus Live TV, and it does not include the Disney ESPN Hulu bundle, but it includes both their ad plan and their ad-free plan. So their ad plan is now going to be $6.99 a month, and their ad-free plan is going to be $12.99 a month. So they're both going up by $1.
It's always annoying when this happens. I'm on the ad plan, so my service just went up $1. I got the email. I was like, oh, it could be worse. It could have been a bigger price hike, so it's only $1.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we're paying. My household's paying like $18 a month for like Netflix now because we're paying for the 4K.
Yeah, I'm paying for the 4K as well since I got the 4K TV, and I'm just like, ugh.
It's a hit, you know?
Yeah, it's a hit. It's like, it's only $1, but like, I think like, you know, as prices of these services keep creeping up, you ask yourself, how much is enough before you think about just canceling, you know?
Yeah, that ties into one of the best benefits of moving away from cable and towards services like this, though, is that these services are really easy to cancel and start up again. You can just kind of go into your app and just cancel it right there.
That's true.
And then you can just hop back in and resubscribe.
Canceling cable is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And they do that on purpose.
Yeah. So that's the good thing, which means that I think the ideal money saver that's able to enjoy everything that, you know, that comes out basically just cycles through their services. Like they're like, okay, I have Netflix this month, and now I've watched everything I really want to watch on Netflix for now, so I'm going to cancel it. And now I'm upping my subscription again for Hulu. And then like, oh, now I've kind of finished that, so now I'm going to cancel that, and now I'm going to subscribe to Paramount Plus. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, and just kind of going between those services as you please. You can watch everything and only have like maybe one service a month, you know? So there's a way around the excessive cost of having so many of these services and stuff. But, you know, I think most people are just kind of lazy. I fall into that boat too. You just subscribe and you're like, oh, I'm not really watching it much now, but it's there.
Yeah. And that's what they depend on, really.
Or you do like year-long subscriptions and get screwed when they delay all their Marvel shows.
Yeah. Didn't do that again.
All right, next news story up. Shang Chi made $90 million over its Labor Day weekend. That's awesome. 4 days, but this is the Labor Day weekend.
I heard it was a record. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Labor Day is not particularly a busy holiday. It's not like there was like that thing for a while. Remember, where like every 4th of July weekend, like Will Smith would put out a movie.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, 4th of July weekend used to be like the weekend to put out like a blockbuster.
Yeah. It's not like that. Labor Day has always been kind of on the slow side.
Which is kind of funny to me because it's like people are off of work. There's nothing else you're doing on Labor Day. Why wouldn't you?
Maybe it's just because the theater people are also laborers.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, I
just thought, you know, what I think is like weird. I think it's actually weird that like Christmas Day is apparently a big day for like films. It's like, I don't know.
I've done that like once in my entire life.
Yeah. I don't know why you would want to go to a theater on Christmas Day. Like that was like my day to just like kind of like stay home and like enjoy the holiday at home with family and stuff, not like go see a movie.
It was actually fun going to a movie on Christmas Day, honestly. Right. But like I only ever did it once, you know, like otherwise I'm just too busy with other things, you know, where like the whole family kind of gets involved in cooking and stuff because it's such a big dinner and everything else that's going on with family and stuff. It's just, you know, there's no time to go to a movie. But yeah, it's weird, like how certain holidays are really big and not. But Labor Day, not historically a big weekend, but this still broke the record for Labor Day. It also did $75.5 million for its 3-day weekend. So that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think they're factoring in the Thursday previews too, because those start at like around 7 p.m. on Thursday. And that's kind of all factored in there as well. So far globally, it's made 146.2. That number's surely outdated by now, but that's from the weekend, you know. This puts its opening only behind Black Widow for the pandemic box office openings. So Black Widow made 80 million in its 3-day weekend, whereas Shang-Chi made 75.5. But this means that it beat not only F9, but also Quiet Place Part 2. So yeah, so that kind of shows you where it's at. The only movie to beat it on an opening weekend is Black Widow. Black Widow had a big drop off. So what's going to be interesting is to see what week 2 looks like for Shang-Chi.
The hold for Shang-Chi, yeah.
Also, Shang-Chi had a budget of around 150 million, which means internationally, at the time that these numbers came out, it was almost a full recoup at that point. So yeah, our last news story is kind of related to that news story about Shang-Chi, and that is that Venom, Let There Be Carnage, has moved its release up. It was originally going to release on October 15th. It's now going to release on October 1st. And apparently the reason why it's moved up its release is because of the success of Shang-Chi.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's obviously the success of Shang-Chi. It's obviously made Sony a little more bullish on the prospects of putting out a movie, especially a superhero genre movie at this time. Because we're in an interesting period now where we do still have a raging pandemic going on.
Yeah.
But movies are performing well at the theaters despite that. And I think now we're kind of getting beyond the period where like studios will feel the need to be like nervous about putting out movies. I think theaters are back at this point.
Yeah.
I think they're back.
Well, the tricky thing is that all these movies that we're getting now that are performing okay, these are all movies that were supposed to come out like last year.
Yeah.
It's just, the studio can't just hold on to them forever, especially in the case of like Disney with the Marvel stuff.
But there was the question of like what Disney was going to do. Was Shang-Chi going to be, on Disney Plus at the same time like they did with Black Widow, and Disney decided not to do that. And that was a gamble. Not going to say it wasn't, but they bet that people would go to the theaters to see this, and Disney was right. They were correct.
Yeah. And so that means Eternals is likely to be theater only as well.
I think, and Free Guy did especially well. So I think that's having a domino effect of, studios convincing that they can go back to releasing films in theaters normally. And we're probably not going to go back to any kind of same day streaming with movies again. That's
except stuff that's already contracted for that.
Yeah,
like
except
the HBO Max stuff.
Yeah, the HBO Max stuff runs to the end of the year, but like next year, that's not happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, that experiment is over. The theater model is back. I think the only major difference is the time from theater showing to streaming is a lot shorter now. I believe both Disney and Warner Brothers have like deals in place of like a 45-day window for their films.
Yeah, it used to be it was 90?
I think so.
The way movies release, it's like there's like separate revenue stream periods. So there's like the theatrical release, there's the DVDs and stuff and digital purchases. And then there's like the releases to like paid services and channels. For example, when a movie opens up, not on the actual company's own platform, but like when HBO airs some movie that wasn't made by Warner Brothers, like that's like the next revenue stream. And then after that, it finally goes back to the actual like creators putting it on their own platforms and services and channels and such. So yeah, this is kind of like shortening all of that period, which makes sense because like in the modern age, those kind of separate revenue streams don't really make as much sense anymore. Everything's kind of moving towards that streaming model. So I think having more of a kind of theatrical release then to their own streaming service kind of makes more sense. But we'll have to see kind of how other movies come out and how the studios react to that.
Yeah.
But that's the news segment. Our next segment is On the Horizon. On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next couple of weeks. About a week and a half, actually. Like I usually cut it off at like the next Friday. So not this coming Friday, but the Friday after. And I do that because sometimes I end up getting the podcast out late and somebody would have like no warning that some show was starting or something, So I just decided to extend it a little bit for that. So this week, Why the Last Man finally debuts on Hulu.
That's had a very long and troubled development.
Yes, it's coming on Monday, September 13th. This has been a long ways off. It's to the point now where I think a lot of the people that were excited about it are kind of just like, I don't know if I really care about this right now. It's like, I don't want to hear about a global pandemic.
Yeah. It's kind of, the timing is kind of like, Yeah, I'm kind of at the point where, like, yeah, I don't want to watch fiction about pandemics. I'm living one. I just want to watch TV and stuff to, like, escape this reality that we're in right now.
Kind of killed the zombie stuff too, like all that stuff's and kind of like I don't really want to watch this right now. I want to watch people out and about doing stuff without wearing masks. I want to like feel like I'm part of that world again. We can watch period pieces set in the year 2000. Yeah, period pieces from 2019 and shit. Yeah. Also coming out next week, Deathloop for the PlayStation 5 and PC comes out on Tuesday, September 14th. Are you interested in this at all?
Yeah, definitely. It looks like a very cool game.
It's doing the kind of Groundhog's Day loop system kind of thing.
Yes, right? which you love. You love Groundhog's Day, so this is a game right for you.
I'm just not into like shooters and stuff. So
it's by Arcane. Arcane, like they make like really, really cool games. They've made a Dishonored series. So it's interesting because like it's kind of like a shooter type game, but like it's interesting because like the premise is like, so you're an assassin and there's like about like these like five or so, probably more, that you have to kill within a single day. And the problem is that you only have a single day to do it. So there's a puzzle involved in which how are you going? And these people are like, they're all over the place. In their default positions, there's no way to get to each of them within a single day. So it becomes a puzzle then, like how can you manipulate events to get them closer together so that you can actually kill them all within the loop? Because after 24 hours, it's Groundhog's Day. It loops back and the day restarts again. And
that's interesting. I mean, I don't have a PlayStation 5 or a gaming PC right now, but
yeah, it's a really interesting premise. And then there's also like another assassin whose goal is to take you down. That's the multiplayer element because that person comes into your world and they're usually controlled by another player. And they can randomly spawn in your world. So there's that to worry about too if you're playing online. Yeah, it sounds really cool.
So is that like directly coming in, or is it more like a shadow of a character like the way Dark Souls does, that kind of thing?
It sounds like it's a directly coming in character instead of like a shadow. Because it's a fully realized, unique character. It's just like a second player character.
That's interesting. So that comes out on Tuesday, September 14th. 2 days after that, on Thursday, September 16th, Tacoma FD returns on truTV. This is from the people behind Super Troopers. But this is like, I think it's its third or fourth season. I'm not sure, but it's a funny show. And then lastly, on Friday, September 17th, Sex Education returns on Netflix. I'm excited for the return of this. I enjoy this show.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with Gillian Anderson.
No, you can't. She's fantastic.
All right. So our next segment is On Tap. What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap? On Tap is where we talk about what we've been watching. This is aside from our full spoilers discussion. We kind of just keep it brief and kind of just talk about our basic impressions. So first up, these are both mine. AP Bio returned for its fourth season on Peacock. I already finished the season. It flew by. It was only 8 episodes. The thing I came to in particular for this season, the thing that I came to realize is that it does a lot of like play with format. So like there's an episode where it kind of starts focusing on this character that's just like one of the kids in the class. It's like kind of dorky kid. And then it like goes into like internal narration for him, even has like his own opening like credits scene, like it's his own show. And like you kind of get like that whole perspective on kind of his life for this one episode, which was pretty cool. And they do like just different kind of weird stuff like that. So I've really been kind of enjoying it. I like shows that kind of play around with format and just kind of mess with that kind of stuff. They also happen to have in this season an episode with Bruce Campbell playing the main character's father. That was excellent. AP Bio on Peacock. Highly recommend it. If you don't have Peacock, sign up for a free trial and just binge through AP Bio. It's definitely worth the hassle of setting up a free trial. There are 4 seasons out right now. Okay. And next up is Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm going to be very careful not to put spoilers in here because Will has not watched this yet.
Yes. No spoilers.
It's good. I liked it a lot. I think it gets a little talky at parts.
Right.
As kind of like any of the movies that are like the debut of a character tend to have like a lot of exposition points and stuff. Right. And that is the case here. It can be a little bit annoying sometimes. It kind of slows down the progress. There's some surprise appearances though. They've both in post-credit scenes and outside of post-credit scenes where they brought in, characters from the MCU in interesting ways. From the trailers, everybody already knows Abomination and Wong are in it. There's some cool stuff with them. I really like the fact that Shang-Chi himself, and he has a friendship with a character played by Awkwafina, the comedian, and it's completely platonic. Like they're just really good platonic friends. And I kind of like that they didn't try to force some romantic angle between them.
Right. Yeah. Because that gets annoying.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're able to represent, that two people of the opposite gender can have like a genuine like friendship without like some stupid won't they romance like subplot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some cool stuff here. Tony Leung plays kind of the Mandarin. They don't really refer to him as the sort of the Mandarin. Like more,
this more isn't Mandarin really than Ben Kingsley, but not fully the Mandarin.
This isn't really spoilers, but like there's a part where he's talking about the 10 Rings and how it was kind of co-opted by, like the name was co-opted by that character from, not Ben Kingsley's character, but the other one from Iron Man 3, the guy that was like running that whole
Justin
thing.
Hammer.
Yeah, like how it was co-opted by Hammer and how he was using it to like scare Americans and stuff into this thing using just the name as like a boost for that, and he refers to that and he mentions it and he talks about the Mandarin and he says like the entire United States was afraid of an orange. Like that's how he refers to it. So that's basically saying he is the Mandarin as the character, but he's not called the Mandarin. Like that's not his name. That's not anything he goes by.
Right.
So that's why I said like kind of the Mandarin, Yeah, there's some cool kind of stuff in here. If you ever watch The Daily Show, Ronnie Chang shows up in it. He's like, he has kind of a brief but memorable appearance. There's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of really cool looking CGI kind of creatures and stuff. There's like this like lion-like thing that looks amazing. I wish I could have one as a pet. And Shang-Chi, it's just exciting to have like a kind of real forward momentum Marvel movie. I like Black Widow, but it was a prequel,
Yeah.
And as a prequel, like it just kind of feels like you're not moving towards anything, because you've already seen where things go. And this is like back to forward momentum for the MCU. So yeah, really enjoyed it. And that's all I'll say to avoid spoilers.
Okay. Sounds good. Can't wait.
And that brings us to our final segment. This is going to be the bulk of our show here. And that is full spoilers. Full Spoilers is the segment where we talk about something that we've both been watching in, you guessed it, full spoiler. So if you haven't watched these shows, then you might want to avoid this part of the podcast. We're going to start things off with What We Do in the Shadows. Season 3 just debuted this last week.
We got 2 episodes.
We got 2 episodes dropped at once. Episode 1 of Season 3, The Prisoner, and Episode 2 of Season 3, The Cloak of Duplication.
Yeah. Episode 1 deals with the fallout from Season 2's finale as the vampires collectively decide what to do about Guillermo now that they know he's kind of like, a very good vampire slayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Will, do you want any raw chicken?
I love the part where like Nandor goes to him and he says, "This one's room temperature. I know you like that."
Yeah, I left it out for 5 days.
Yeah.
And Guillermo's like, "Oh, great,"
Oh, great, yeah.
I like that he just seems so well adjusted to it, and then you find out that it's just because he can like easily escape from there. There's like just it's just a completely ineffective prison.
Yeah,
and he just like walks out and leaves, and he's still like just taking care of the house,
because like the side of it like is completely broken.
Yeah.
So like he could just move the bars and like leave whenever he wants. And he just tosses the chicken and like you see he goes to like get a burger at a restaurant. And the funniest part about that is like he gets out and he sneaks out and he does like all the chores, like around the house. And he says like they don't. And you know the thing is like I do this stuff for him. And they don't even realize it. They think it just happens
because they're just like completely helpless.
Yeah, they're just completely helpless.
I love the way that's just portrayed. You know,
but I love the way that's portrayed. Helpless. Like he does all that stuff and like they have him locked up and they're not doing it. They're not like asking themselves how everything's still getting done, right? They don't even notice.
There's also, I believe it's a subplot in this episode. I don't think it's.
Well, it's also the plot in this episode where they do get named to the Vampiric Council of New York.
Yeah.
Of that area.
Yeah, they get basically like they are the Vampiric Council of New York.
Yeah, they are the Vampire because you get a video. You get
VHS tape.
VHS tape, yeah, which is funny because they're like VHS. How do you spell that?
And then she says it with an accent.
Yeah, she does.
VHS. Like, oh.
I think at one point, like Nandor says, "This." It's like try
this.
Yeah, trying to say it like a word.
Yeah, the video is great because it's Taika Waititi.
Yeah, it's Taika Waititi playing, his character from the film again, who's like one of the only survivors of the Great Guillermo vampire massacre.
They make it like they're doing him a boon or something, and it's just like, oh, this will keep them busy or something.
Yeah. So I definitely think like this whole subplot about them being like the Vampiric Council in New York, I do think like it's a plot. It's definitely like there's probably like something going on with that,
Yeah, just keep them out of their hair while they plot something against them.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like
probably a very stupid plot too.
Yeah, probably a very stupid plot, knowing this. But again, like they're also dumb, like they just like accept it like out of hand and like they start fighting over it.
Over who's gonna sit on the throne or whatever.
Yeah.
I like Laszlo's just like, no, don't want it.
Yeah, Laszlo doesn't want it. Laszlo's like, I became a vampire for 2 reasons, so I can suck blood and I can fuck for eternity. Yeah. That's all he wants to do.
Meanwhile, like Nandor, Nadja, and Colin are all fighting over it.
Yeah, they're all fighting over it. Yeah, exactly. I love Laszlo in like these 2 episodes because he is in full I don't give a shit about anything mode. It's great.
Yeah, it's very funny. This episode also introduces the character of the guide played by Kristen Schaal.
Yes.
Great actress. She is in quite a few things.
Her role ostensibly is to advise and assist the vampires as they take on the responsibility of leading the Vampiric Council.
I love how she's just like, I don't understand this one bit, but it's above my pay grade.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, she can say that. It's above my pay grade. I don't know why they named you to the Vampiric Council, but that's above my pay grade. I'm not going to question it.
Yeah. But then she just keeps saying that through the whole thing.
Yeah, she keeps
every time something comes up. I don't know why you're doing this, but it's above my pay grade.
I love it when like I think this part is actually in episode 2 where like she's showing them like around.
Yes, that is in episode 2.
Yeah, okay.
So in episode 2, that's what we're going to move on to now is the Cloak of Duplication.
Yeah, the Cloak of Duplication. Yeah, so I can continue. So yeah, in episode 2, she's showing them around the Vampire Council headquarters for the first time, right? And I love it because they got Guillermo there. Last episode, they solved the Guillermo dilemma. We should mention they solved that dilemma by like naming him as their bodyguard. And it's funny too because like they really draw it out like whether or not they're not going to execute him. And it's like, we're not going to execute you, Guillermo. And then he says, instead, we decided to make you a full member of our clan. And Guillermo's like, you're going to make me a vampire? And they're like, what? No. Hell no.
I love just how they're just not going to do it,
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Like Laszlo's like Jesus, no. And then this episode when Kristen Schaal's showing them around the headquarters, she tells them, no, you can't have a human. Like she shows them the room, like this is the room for familiars. And Andor's like, no, Guillermo's our bodyguard, And she's like, no, we can't have a human running around the Vampiric Council headquarters. And then she says, unless you're planning on making him a vampire. And then they're like, no, Jesus. And then like Guillermo's like, that was a pretty quick answer to that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny just the way they're just so dismissive of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, in this, we get to see in the next episode here in the Cloak of Duplication, they show him a bunch of like artifacts and stuff they have. They have this cloak that can duplicate things, but then she's like, but you should never use it, never touch it. Of course, they're just like, they're going to use it right away.
Of course they're going to use it. And then we find out that like Nandor is actually nursing a crush on this woman at like a gym he used to go to.
I love him going to the gym.
Yes.
And trying to like kind of like be alpha over like other people in the gym.
Yeah. That part was hilarious.
Floating over like the treadmill and stuff. So he has a crush on this girl, but he doesn't know how to speak to her. So he tells Laszlo, he says like, use the Cloak of Duplication.
Yeah, because he's like Laszlo, you know how to talk to women, you know, right? Obviously, like to Nandor, like Laszlo is a Lothario, you know. So he decides to, you know, he's trying to convince Laszlo to do it, but Laszlo keeps just hands off the responsibility to Colin Robinson because Laszlo's like, I can't be buggered to do this.
I like how even before that, though, like Laszlo's like, oh, okay, so you want me to like hit on her, do this, and Nandor's like, yes, he's all, and then take her back to her house and for the best night of her life.
Yeah.
It's like Nandor's like, no,
it's like no, the first part more, you know.
So Laszlo, like you said, he can't be buggered to do it, so he hands it off to Colin Robinson, who goes in and is completely ineffectual. He tries to nag her.
I love it because Colin, like, he's walking there and he's like, I have this technique. You probably haven't heard it. It's called negging. You wouldn't understand. You're too stupid. See, you've just been negged. And so, like, he goes in there, he starts putting her down, like, immediately and shit.
To the point they kick him out. Yeah,
to the point they kick him out. Oh my god, I love it too because pretty much everybody takes a turn at this, and like they each have like this routine that's like different but equally cringe.
Guillermo like is kind of more successful with her, but like all he's talking about is himself.
Yeah, all he's talking about is himself. Yeah. Well, like Laszlo actually, they actually convinced Laszlo to go do it, and Laszlo does it because like there's a setup for this joke earlier because like when they first get into the Vampire Council, like they find the library, and the thing is like Laszlo finds like all this pornography. Like that's all he can. Like the library has like all kinds of shit in it, but all Laszlo cares about is like all this pornography that he just found. That's all he cares about. And so like when Laszlo actually like goes there as Nandor to talk to this woman, like he decides to like show her some of the pornography he found. He's like, let me show you some of the most lascivious pornography you've ever laid eyes upon. And so she starts like screaming.
Yeah, he just bombs hard. He tries to like serenade her with like a lute.
None
of it's working, really so he just ends up like brainwashing her to like make her forget and leave.
Yeah, to make her forget everything. I love it too because like both he and Colin Robinson, like when they get back, they're like, she's obviously not into guys.
That actually ends up being the case.
That's the punchline. Like they said that because like their egos like wouldn't let them accept that she rejected them because they were shit. And so they just said that, but it turns out to actually be true.
Nandor finally tries to go and talks to her himself, and it's in a better situation based on Guillermo becoming more friendly with her and stuff. But then she's got this whole thing of like trying to set up Nandor with Guillermo. Yeah,
because the way Guillermo was talking to her
about himself,
she got the impression that Nandor was in love with Guillermo. And there was also a subplot about like these rebel vampires who were going against like the Vampiric Council.
Millennial vampires.
Yeah, these millennial vampires. If you noticed, like the main one was the kid from the faux documentary show about like high school pranks.
American Vandal?
Yes, American Vandal. If you notice, the main vampire in that was the kid from American Vandal. The
guy got his heart ripped out.
Yeah, the guy who got his heart ripped out. Yeah, that was him.
I love the way that Nadja like just ended like their whole stalemate between them just by ripping his heart out.
Yeah, Nadja is the most vicious of them all. Yeah. Nadja was, if you go back to the first episode, she was the one, and her doll clone of her was the one like really like petitioning for Guillermo's execution. And so she is the most vicious vampire in the group. Laszlo doesn't give a shit about anything, and at this point, Nandor is just a freaking teddy bear, you know. You know.
He's so funny.
Yeah, he's so funny.
I love Mandor. But yeah, so they had that. I love also, but in that group of the millennial vampires, there was another energy vampire.
Yes. And this ties into like another subplot that they started in episode 2, which is like Colin Robinson really starting to wonder about his origins and, the origins of like asking questions about where he came from, how are energy vampires even made? Like surprisingly, he doesn't have the answers to these questions, and he reveals that he's turning 100, and one of his goals was by the time he was 100 years old to have the answers to those questions. And so when he gets into the library, that really brings that up, because he starts to think, the answers, since they have this access, this huge archive of information, that the answers might be in there. Mm-hmm. And again, when we see Colin meets this other energy vampire, he starts, asking him questions like, oh, yeah, you ever wonder where you came from? And he says, like, are you trying to bore me? And he's like, no, I'm not. It's genuine. He's not. He wants to know the answer to these questions. It's funny. I feel that's going to be a plot thread going through the season, I feel. It's
funny because the actor who plays Colin Robinson has said that his dream is to have Bob Newhart on the show as an energy vampire.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Which would be funny, I mean, Bob Newhart's getting really up there in age right now, though, so yes. I don't know like how much you'd be able to get with him, unless they already did something. Maybe it's a hint and they already did something with him.
Yeah, who knows?
Because he's 94, I believe, so.
But yeah, this definitely feels like a plot thread that they're going to investigate further into. We might even get like an entire Colin Robinson episode dedicated to it.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great one last season.
Yeah, we did.
So it'd be a cool thing to see another episode kind of focused on him. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, what's something we forgot about from the first episode that was really funny? Was when they were explaining like double hypnosis, like how they did that.
And
they did that in the last season and made the guy like brain dead.
Yeah,
they were doing quadruple hypnosis or something
on like Guillermo, but Guillermo's just like, they've hypnotized me so many times now that I'm just immune to it. Like it doesn't work on me. So he's just like, so I just pretend that I'm hypnotized. And I love it even saying, because he's like, they hypnotized me so many times, but it was like always for like stupid stuff that I would have just done anyway.
Like Colin Anderson is trying to like humiliate him. So he's like, every time you say my name, you need to meow or something.
Yeah. And there was like some weird stuff with Colin Robinson too. Like Colin Robinson was like really obsessed with Guillermo's poop, and also like poking Guillermo.
What was that?
Yeah. Because he was like, I'm going to check Guillermo's poop to see if he's like hiding messages in there. And then like later on, he's like, I checked Guillermo's poop and there were no messages, but I'm going to keep checking it every day just in case.
This is so weird.
And also Colin Robinson was like really obsessed with poking Guillermo with a cattle rod too.
But he kept fucking up and hurting himself and shit.
Yeah, he kept hurting himself instead. So it's weird. I don't know if that's like also tied into like with like the subplot, what's going on with Colin Robinson this season, but it was kind of out of character.
It was a little weird, yeah.
Yeah.
There were a few little beats and stuff that were a little bit on the weird side with the way certain characters acted, and that could maybe be attributed to the new showrunners on the show.
Right.
It was still good though. Like it was a little off at certain points, but for the most part, it was still very funny. And I really loved the raw chicken running joke from the first episode.
Yeah, the raw chicken stuff. And you see like Guillermo just like throwing the chicken out in like the friggin' dumpster. And then getting a burger.
Yeah, it's really funny. So definitely that brings an end to our discussion of What We Do in the Shadows, episodes 1 and 2 of the 3rd season. And we'll be talking about this week to week. So look forward to that. Next up, our next show for full spoilers is What If? In this episode, What If Zombies?
What If Zombies? Finally, we got Marvel Zombies in the
That's MCU. Literally the name of the episode, though. Just What If ... Zombies.
Yeah. And it kind of encapsulates the entire episode. So I was kind of excited to see Marvel Zombies being adapted in the MCU.
One interesting thing here is that we talked about this when the 3rd episode aired, how like that episode it was a what if episode in this thing, but it was kind of more similar to the, blank kills the Marvel Universe comics runs that they've had rather than the actual what if runs, except from a different perspective, of course. But then this episode is, again, it's not really related to the what if comics so much as it is related to an actual run called like Marvel Zombies.
There were multiple series of comics called Marvel Zombies. They weren't what if because Marvel wasn't publishing what if comics at that time anyway, but they were set in an alternate universe from the main Marvel universe. So they could be kind of considered a what if. They're, like it wasn't anything happening in the main Marvel continuity, that's for sure. But but the thing about like the Marvel Zombies comics is like they were R-rated. They were very gruesome, very gory.
Didn't Robert Kirkman have something to do with one of the runs?
Yeah, Robert Kirkman actually wrote the first series of it. So it had Robert Kirkman's sensibilities. Like if you watch The Walking Dead, or like especially more like Invincible, it was more like Invincible, really, and like the tone and stuff than The Walking Dead, because like it has like a lot of gore, it has like a lot of it like dark humor, like very dark humor. In the Marvel Zombies comics, like the zombies are still intelligent. They can still think, like, they're still like them, but they're overwhelmed by an insatiable hunger that they can't resist. We didn't get too much of that in this episode, although,
they were using magic and powers and their armor and stuff like that.
They were still, but they weren't talking much. But
I don't think they really did a good job of portraying that.
I don't think they did. So as far as an adaptation goes, I was not a fan of this episode. This is a really toned down PG-13 version of the concept, which I expected. It's Disney. But I was really not a fan of one thing that really I was not a fan of was like the humor in this episode. Like I said, like Marvel Zombies dealt in like a lot of dark humor. There wasn't like any dark humor in this. It was just like outright like trying to make like jokes
and shit. Yeah,
it was puns and shit. It was really
Scott
corny.
Lang, Ant-Man was making all sorts of puns throughout.
Yeah, he's making all sorts of puns. Spider-Man was being like really freaking annoying, trying to be like the main character from Zombieland.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what happens in Zombie. It's like, Jesus, shut up. It's like, I just wasn't like a huge fan of it, and like all the attempts at like characters making jokes and references and stuff kind of killed whatever dramatic beats they were going for. And then like there wasn't any like really cool action sequences either. So yeah, unfortunately, this episode fell flat for me, and it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, it's perhaps the worst episode. Of the show. I really have a special place in my heart for the Peggy Carter episode for being just a fucking recap.
Right. I would say this is so far the worst episode of the season, and it was the one I was most looking forward to, but it doesn't even come close to like the comics version of the concept. And also like weirdly it like ends on a cliffhanger for like it just ends on a cliffhanger, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like it ends with them going
Thanos
to
zombie.
Yeah, Thanos zombie. Yeah, zombie Thanos, which is cool to see. But also ends like with them like they're headed to Wakanda with the Mind Stone to presumably like end it, but like that's where it ends. Like they're on their way to do that. We don't like see like what happens or if they succeed or anything. And there's a zombie Thanos, and that's kind of where they decide to leave it.
This touches on like Ant-Man and the Wasp with like the origin of this zombie thing.
Yeah,
I like
that as an explanation for the origin. Like I thought that was fine.
Yeah, but the actual like,
and I thought like it opened
before about.
I thought it opened strongly too. I opened with like the Hulk coming back from space at the beginning of Endgame.
Or Infinity War.
Infinity War, yeah, at the beginning of Infinity War, and then you see like. The introduction of the zombies was like really cool, but it quickly goes downhill from there.
Yeah. I think the one thing that's kind of like you were talking about it ending on a kind of cliffhanger, but I think it's kind of spelled out. I mean, this is Infinity War. This is what this is. You know, all of the episodes of What If are kind of based on one of the MCU movies, and this one's Infinity War.
Yeah.
And what happens at the end of Infinity War? Thanos wins and gets all the stones, you know?
Right.
And so that's when they showed like Thanos with all but one of the stones, like heading to.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's heading to. He's going to head to Wakanda.
Yeah.
So and there's really nothing they can do, you know. Like most of their fighting force is gone, you know, and they still lost. They lost when they had their full fighting force, and now they have much less of it. So I think it's pretty like I don't think they're going to follow up in the same way that I don't think they're going to necessarily follow up on the Guardians episode the way that one ended either, you know. It's just kind of implied like, well, nobody's like Peter Quill doesn't have his team with him, so he's going to be manipulated by ego.
Right.
And then in this one, it's well, like they don't have enough of their fighting force, so they're easily going to be overcome by Thanos. I'm with you on this. I was going to ask you like what your perception of this episode was, and it's about what I thought it was, and it's about what I feel as well, which is just this is not a great episode of What If. Pretty much a letdown. I kind of, unlike you, I think I wasn't really expecting much from it. I think I'm kind of done with zombies.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's a cool concept, and they did it well in the comics, you know, because it's zombies, but like it's zombies with superpowers, which is like something you don't see a lot of. So, you know, and it's really cool too, because like the fact that they decided to keep like the heroes when they become zombies like intelligent and stuff really makes it so you get like these moments like Peter Parker Spider-Man after he's been turned and after he's like eaten Aunt May and Mary Jane like agonizing over the fact that he did that, you know, and you get like other moments like that. And
they didn't nail that balance here. Like they showed the people being able to still use their abilities even though they're zombies, but they didn't show anything to show that they were being tortured or agonized by the fact that they're zombies now. They were just, it's like they'd use their powers and then they just acted like mindless zombies.
Yeah, exactly. Like
it's like, oh, I fly around, do all this stuff, and then I start slowly limping towards you. You know? Again, just like a regular zombie, you know?
Right, exactly.
They didn't really land the balance on that. This is like the letdown episode of the series so far for me. After the first episode, both you and I were kind of like, oh, come on, take some more risks, you know?
Yeah.
And then I think we kind of we mostly enjoyed the other episodes.
I think last week's episode was the best episode of the entire season so far.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak for you, but for me, like I enjoyed all the other episodes. And then this episode came and it was like, I mean, it was watchable. That's what most I can say for it.
I suggest read Marvel Zombies and then read Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness, which is another good one.
Does that have Ash in it?
Yeah, it has Ash in it. Yeah,
Ash. I gotta find that now.
It's awesome. It's Ash through the Necronomicon gets transported to the Marvel Zombies universe and has to survive.
I love Ash, so I love Evil Dead. So
yes, it's fantastic. I recommend it.
Again, though, kind of a letdown for this episode. Let's hope for something better next week. Last week's episode was
they
so
did like
good.
Another thing with the Marvel Zombies at the Marvel Universe comics, like in the mainline Marvel comics, like apparently like zombie Deadpool got transported to like the mainline Marvel Universe, but only his head. And like Deadpool like finds it and like just keeps it around and makes it like his sidekick.
He attaches it like to a belt around his waist like Lollipop Chainsaw.
Yeah.
We need Travis Touchdown to enter the MCU.
Yes, we do.
All right. So that's it. That's Marvel's What If Zombies. The most disappointing episode of the series so far. Let's hope for better next week. Last week's was a high mark, and I'm eager to see something of that caliber again. Next week, we have What If Episode 6 and What We Do in the Shadows, Season 3, Episode 3. And that's pretty much it for the podcast. I did want to bring up one thing at the end of the podcast, and I wanted to do it at the end because I didn't want to ruin the mood or anything. And that's that Michael K. Williams, the actor from The Wire, Boardwalk Empire, The Night of, Lovecraft Country, Hap and Leonard, bunch of other stuff, passed away this last week. And that's just kind of wanted to acknowledge that he's a great actor.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's a tragedy for sure. His performance in Lovecraft Country was easily my favorite performance in that show.
Yeah, the scene where he was in the gay club.
Yeah.
And he finally like let himself kind of just go, you know?
Yes.
Was like so powerful. If you haven't seen it, The Wire, of course, is everybody knows about The Wire, whether they've seen it or not. His character of Omar Little is amazing. It's the highlight of the series. It's such a good character. He was also great in Boardwalk Empire, played Chalky White. Very great character as well.
We lost an amazing talent, and it's
really sad. We lost another great actor. One who seems to also be a kind of a great person who, from all accounts from people who have been talking about him, I've seen like lots of stories of people saying like, I was at like a party, I didn't really fit in, so I was kind of hiding away in a corner, and he approached me and sat down and started talking about poetry with me.
Right. Yeah.
It's
from all accounts, he was a great person. Like in real life, definitely.
Yeah, so that's just a sad loss, and I just wanted to address that before we ended the podcast. If you want to send us messages about anything we talked about in this podcast or anything we might be talking about in future podcasts, or just kind of anything in general related to what we do here, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. Leave us any kind of feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotoscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.